In this tutorial, we'll look at the behavior scaled rotation. Scaled rotation enables dynamic rotation of an element or group of elements between two angles using a defined scale. An example would be a gauge that has a definite high value and low value for indicating. Let's begin by drawing an arc. I'll select Grid Snap On and the arc element. Using the instructions at the bottom of the screen, I'll left click for the center, then another left click for one radius, and one more left click to finish the arc. In the tree view, I'll highlight this, right click, and I'll group it. Pushing the F2 button now, I'll rename this scale. Next, we'll actually draw the pointer. I'll turn my grid snap off for easier manipulation, and I'll use the Add Horizontal Vertical Line element. Beginning at the center of the scale arc, one left click for one side of the line and another left click for the other side. In the tree view, I'll highlight this, right click to group it, and I'll rename this by pushing F2, name this pointer. I drew this pointer purposefully in a horizontal line so that if I wanted to add embellishment to the pointer, I could just do it on one side and then use the mirror operation to make my drawing exercise a lot easier. And again, we grouped it into a folder, and we'll put the behavior on this folder so that anytime you want to add an element that has this behavior, it's much easier to do. Double click on the pointer folder, bringing up the Edit Shape dialog box. Going to the Behaviors tab, we'll insert from the drop-down list, we'll insert a scaled rotation. First thing to select is the plug. Click on the plug box, brings up the Select Variable dialog box. We'll add a new variable. Let's just call it rotate. Notice that it's already a type float, array length of 1. Select OK here. At this stage, I'll go ahead and push the copy button and copy this information for the test data generator, which we'll use in just a moment. From there, I'll select OK. Back to the Edit Shape dialog box. Where do we want the center of rotation to be? So I click on this center button and choose a spot on the layout for the center of rotation, the pivot point of the pointer. Where do I want it to attach? Once I select this Attach button, it allows me to pick a point anywhere in the layout that I want to reference my scale. Typically, that would be the tip of the pointer. The next selection is a start angle. Where do I want my pointer, the low value on my scale, to be? So once I click that, I can select a point on my layout, which will be the very bottom of the arc. The end angle, click on that, and I'll select the very upper right-hand portion of the arc. Notice that these start angle and end angle indicators, the green and the red, are at the same radius as our attach point. Next, we'll choose the start value. Let's say the beginning value of this gauge will be 0, and let's say the end of it will be 110. Two other boxes to choose. Let's start off by selecting the limit box. We'll discuss it more in a moment. And also clockwise. So summary, our behavior will be following along this scale, beginning at 0 and ending the scale at 110, whatever the value might be for that. For example, at N1 for a turbine engine. So I'll select OK, and I'll go ahead and run it. Open up my test data generator, paste the rotate variable in there. I'll go ahead and start it. Notice now that my rotate angle is starting out at 0, therefore the pointer needle is at the 0 portion. I open up my Edit Member dialog box for the test data generator, and under Slew Information, I'll select Bounce. We'll go from a low value of 0 to a high value of 110, initial value of 0, and we'll increment 0.5, and we'll start. Notice that the pointer goes through the scale, referencing the scale 0 to 110, and bounces back. I'm going to open up the Edit Member dialog box again and change the high value to 120. So now we're populating the data up to 120 units of whatever this might be. So notice that the needle still stops at the top of the scale, even though the rotate value is higher than that. I'll turn that off for a second. Open up the Behaviors tab on the Edit Shape dialog box. This is where that Limit checkbox is selected. This does not allow the pointer to go beyond the limit of the value of the end value of the scale. If we deselect that and watch what happens again, notice that the pointer exceeds the limit of the scale. That may or may not be desirable depending on the type of gauge you're using.